Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us for the webinar today. We're really excited to have you joining us today, and we'll just give it a couple of minutes to give people a chance to join, and then we'll get underway. Great. I think we can get underway. We're just past 12 o'clock. So I just want to welcome everyone to the webinar today. It is the Ask the Panel webinar. So we have two of last year's participants joining us and just giving a short presentation on their campaign from last year, what they did to market the campaign, and how basically they got the donations in. So really looking forward to those presentations. Before we get underway, I'll just give some housekeeping. So you'll see on the right-hand side of your Zoom panel, there'll be a chat function. Please feel free to introduce yourselves there to other attendees. You can do a bit of networking, and you can also share any ideas that you have in that chat function. If you have any questions for the Q&A portion of the webinar, there is the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom panel. Please put any questions in there, and then I'll pick it up for the Q&A portion. Try to avoid putting them in the chat function because they can occasionally get lost in there if quite a few people are saying different things. So please put any questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom panel. And yeah, if you need any transcription, there is that on offer. So if you click on more at the bottom of your Zoom panel, you can turn on the transcription if you do need that service available. And yeah, we are recording this webinar, so we will be putting it on our YouTube channel next week, so you can rewatch it and share it with colleagues if you need to. With that in mind, we can get underway. So firstly, I'd like to introduce Amelia from Suicide & Co., who took part in the Kind²Mind campaign last year, and they exceeded their target. And she's just going to give you a presentation about what they did to market their campaign and make it a success. So yeah, over to you, Amelia.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. This is a brilliant grant program, so it's great to share kind of what success we had. I'm just going to share my screen, and I'm going full screen. Can people see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay.
Thanks.
I don't know how to make this smaller though. So I firstly, just to introduce who we are and the charity. So my name's Amelia Wrighton. I am one of the co-founders of Suicide & Co, and I now sit in the CEO role. Suicide & Co, as a charity, we support those who've lost loved ones to suicide, so those who are bereaved by suicide. We have been going for about 3.5 years, and we've been on a very, very fast growth trajectory, now having raised sort of 1.2 million in total and having delivered about 8,000 counselling sessions. Our core kind of service provision, so we operate in all of England and Wales. We mainly offer a counselling service, so anybody who's bereaved by suicide can access up to 12 sessions of counselling through our kind of expert counsellors, completely free of charge. And then we have a helpline that we run, and we have an app and tons of information online as well. But our model is that we pay all of our counsellors, and so it can be expensive and difficult to raise money for counselling. And yet, because of the demand that we have, we're currently operating at delivering about 500 hours of counselling a month. So these types of grants where we can publicly kind of fundraise and raise money for counselling, for us, are incredible. So last year, we were part of the funding. Come on. Here you go. So this was our campaign. So we received £5,000 worth of champion funding. Is it called champion? But match funding. So our campaign target was £10,000, and we exceeded that, and we went and we got £11,611, which was amazing. And so as you can see, we called it our like Mental Health Awareness Week fundraising appeal. And we were applying directly for counselling sessions because each counselling session costs us £30. And so we could give our kind of donors a really clear impact that they were funding 387 sessions. We found the platform really brilliant to use. We also think that because of the fact that it was in Mental Health Awareness Week and there were other charities in our space kind of around us, many whom we knew, it was a fantastic thing that our kind of ongoing community also really benefited hearing about it and seeing all the different charities that were there and the different charities that were being funded. A key part to preface is we don't do fundraising appeals, so we've never kind of done generic like we need money appeals. We've tried and they just haven't gone down very well. This was by far our most successful one, and we think a lot of that was to do with the fact that it was our first one, but it was also our first kind of like match funding campaign, which is just such a brilliant incentive. So we just thought we'd talk about a couple of tips as we were asked to talk about what we did. So we created a social media campaign with its own sort of look and feel, as well as integrating it into our existing content. So we post every day on our social media and Facebook anyway. And so we were really cautious about like the design that we wanted to choose so that it felt very much like, especially this one is just our language that we use all the time. But by putting it in the Kind²Mind imagery, it kind of made it more significant and stand out. But also we were really conscious not to talk about it every day because our kind of really loyal community who are liking every post and kind of following us each day would find that a bit infuriating. So the kind of main tips that we had with social was using the templates. The templates were like brilliant for us, and also just being able to kind of integrate it into our brand's guidelines. So yeah, as you can see here, we also kind of changed it to be more relevant. It is safe to say that these posts didn't kind of do as well as our regular posts. And I think they're not that used to us kind of promoting fundraising. They're used to us promoting support messages. So I think just this year, we're probably going to adapt this a little bit and be a little bit less direct on social media and kind of more add value to what they're following us for. And then email was a really big part of it. So we did a bespoke email purely to our database of contacts, which was just about this campaign. We used really clear wording expressing what we were fundraising for, and we used the like once donation, twice the impact. And yeah, one thing to maybe say is like we were kind of specific about not going to the same people. So we chose not to contact previous major donors, as we knew we had events coming up that we had to contact them for, like we had a gala and things. But what we found is that this campaign really helped us bring in new donors instead. The other thing we did was we put, for the first time, we put it in our email signatures. You know, we've now got a team of 8 and 29 counsellors, and I think it was just on the week. I think it was just on the week. It could be moving forward, we maybe do it the week before. But actually, I think because the campaign opens, that's why we did it. It was just a kind of direct thing that people could jump onto. So we did that. And then we also kind of empowered all of our team to send out a template that they could use for their posts, people that they thought might find it relevant. It worked really well. Our ambassadors specifically are kind of an extension of us. We have about, I think 32 of them, and they're always wanting to kind of support, and we just give them as much of the information ahead of time so that they can do that and help us amplify these campaigns. And then another thing was that we did personalised thank you to every donor who donated more than £100. And that was mainly just because we had other things going on at the same time with community fundraising, and that's kind of a boundary that we have as a charity, that we send a personalised email to everyone who donates over £100 and gives us permission. So yeah, our tips and learnings would be plan in advance. So create social content plan and a newsletter plan. Think about who you're going to reach out to. We also did a big thing of thinking about the projects that we knew we had upcoming, just to make sure that we weren't going for everybody with the same message. And for us, it was the first time that we really refined our message to just talking about £30, because what was so exciting was that by them donating £30, they were actually funding 2 counselling sessions because of the nature of the match funding. So yeah, that is our key learnings.
Thank you. Thank you, Amelia. That was really great presentation. I just want to echo some of what you said is like, yeah, definitely focusing on the email communications is a really strong point because from our own data, emails are generally the biggest driver of donors making donations above everything else. So that is a really great top tip and some great examples of what you can do to successfully reach people through email. But yeah, great presentation overall, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Um, Now, I'd like to introduce Rachel from 125, who took part in the Kind² campaign again last year, and they had a great success. But they've also taken part in a couple of other campaigns with us. But I'll hand over to Rachel to explain more about what they did to make their campaign a success last year.
Hi there, everybody. My name's Rachel. I'm from 125. I am the donor fundraiser. I'm just going to get my slides up.
Great, and yeah, we can see them, so they are
Fabulous.
working.
Thank you. So, as Sahil's already said, we have been very fortunate to take part in the Big Give on many occasions. Last year, we took part in Kind²Mind, and we've also been part of the Big Give Christmas Challenge and the Big Give Women and Girls Match Fund. And before I tell you about what we did in our campaign, and you'll probably hear a few things that you've already heard from Amelia, I just wanted to tell you a little about who we are and about the amazing women that we support. So we are based in Bristol, and since 1995, 125 has provided specialist support to women who are street sex working. And the women that we meet are all living with the impact of traumatic experiences, and they face disadvantages from homelessness to challenges with mental and physical health. And we support the women to move from crisis towards independence. And we do that by providing 3 services. One is a night outreach van that goes out onto the streets providing practical support. One is a health hub that links women to healthcare professionals. And the third is our casework support, which helps women on a one-to-one basis tackle the challenges that they face. Now, supporting women with their health and well-being is a really important part of our work, but we weren't actually set up as a mental health charity, so we don't have mental health written into our charitable objects. So as per the rules of the Kind²Mind campaign, we had to do a restricted fundraising campaign for a programme that is specifically about mental health. And for us, that is the casework service. So we do have specialist caseworkers who work solely on mental health, but all of the casework team support women with tackling disadvantages that will have a detrimental impact on their well-being. So for Kind²Mind last year, we specifically fundraised for casework. What did we achieve? Well, during the week of the campaign, we raised £10,001, unlocking all £10,000 of match funding that we had been awarded. And we received 68 donations from £5 to over £2,000. And I'm going to share very briefly with you how we planned and communicated our campaign and some of the questions that we asked ourselves. So even if the messages and the promotional tools that we used aren't for you, I hope that at least the questions will be a useful starting point to aid you. So before we start, the first thing we did was identify our aims and targets. Obviously, we all want to unlock as much match funding as we can, but on top of that, are there other things that you would like to achieve? Perhaps you want to reach new people and use the campaign and the match element to encourage them to give for the first time. You might want to deepen connections with supporters that have been with you for a while. Or you might want to present your work in a way that you haven't done before and then reflect on how people respond and see how it's worked. Whatever your aims are, we recommend making them measurable so that you can see if you've actually achieved them. Secondly, thinking about how you're going to communicate with different groups of supporters. For example, when we spoke to people who had given donations to our previous Big Give appeals, we made sure to acknowledge that previous support and the fact that they already know how the doubling element works. But for people who were new to us, we took time to explain the match funding and that their donations had to be made through the Big Give because they'd never come across the concept before. And finally, it's worth thinking about if you have any supporters who would appreciate knowing about the campaign in advance. They might be groups and corporates, they could be long-term supporters, regular donors, you know your supporter groups best. But would any of them appreciate knowing in advance, and might they be able to plan making a gift during the appeal week? We also found that making save the date cards and giving them out to people in the weeks before the appeal, particularly when we met people at events, was really helpful because people could choose, if they wanted to delay their gift and take advantage of the match opportunity. During the campaign, we recommend a complementary mix of marketing channels. So we used email. As Sahil's already mentioned, that can be a really amazing way to reach directly into people's inboxes. We produced a website blog. We made print materials such as posters and newsletters. We attended lots of events in person, and we used social media, both paid for advertising to reach new people and organic posts to reach our existing following. On this slide, hopefully you can see some examples of the content that we produced, and we wanted to explore all the connections between these multiple channels. So our email newsletter and our social posts linked to the blog, our posters and save the date cards were really useful at events, but ultimately all of these interconnected things directed people back to the Big Give page so that people could find out more and make their donation. Kind²Mind ran for 1 week, and this year it's actually running for 2 weeks. So as Amelia's already said, it's really important to make sure that you're not being repetitive. Like, we don't want to alienate people for the sake of a short-term opportunity when they could support us in the long term. So consider how a complementary mixture of messages could work for you. Some of your content could link to the fact that it's Mental Health Awareness Week, which feels very timely and newsworthy. Other parts of content could highlight that this appeal is time limited and that there is a matching element with a specific target to make it feel more urgent. Obviously, some of your content will need to raise awareness of the issues that are faced by the people that you're supporting. And finally, how the generosity of your supporters is going to make a difference and have an impact. For us at 125, it's really important to make sure that women's voices are heard where we can, because they are so often excluded from society. And it's also important to bring our supporters closer to the lives of the women so they can see how they're making a difference. Across all of the content, and regardless what the message was, we made sure to include quotes and stories from the women we support in their own words. And like us, you may need to use pseudonyms or anonymized photography to help you. Finally, what happens when Kind²Mind is over? So we have 2 recommendations here. One is to think about how you can make your follow-up communications as person-centered or as personal as possible. So are you going to send the same thank you email or card to someone who's never donated before, and this is their first appeal, and also to someone who's been with you for a long time? Like, what do you know about your supporters and what motivates them to give to your cause? And finally, what is your next interaction with the supporter going to be? How are you going to keep them informed? Depends very much on the work you do and the size of your team, of course, but to give you an idea of what we did, 3 months after the campaign, we contacted everybody who had donated and shared their contact details. and invited them to come and visit 125, to have a tour and to meet one of the caseworkers who works directly with the women to give them an insight into what had been happening. That's a whistle-stop tour, and I hope that's given you some food for thought. Our contact details are on the screen there if you'd like to reach me, but obviously if you've got any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you, Rachel. That was a really great presentation. I liked how you sort of went through it methodically about what you did for the campaign and broke it down. So yeah, really thank you for sharing your insights with everyone. We do have, I just want to remind everyone, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, in the Q&A box, so we can start picking them up. But we do have one question for both of you. And it's from Rosie Jacks, who wants to know, I'd love to know from both charities if you know how much of your fundraising total came from existing contacts and how much from new, and what proportion of donors shared their or opted into receiving comms from you. So yeah, I don't know if you have those insights.
I don't have those insights, so they're brilliant questions. I can try and find them out and send them around, but I just tried to look on the platform and I can't figure that out. So I don't know the answer. I don't know if you know, Rachel.
I have it, so I'm looking for it right now. So if you give me 2 minutes, I will find it.
What I can say to that question from Rosie is that we asked charities to complete the post-campaign survey after each campaign. On average, it's about 90 to, I think 95 is the highest I've seen, but 90 to 95% of participating charities in any given campaign have said that they've received at least one donation from a new supporter. And then the ratio roughly across the campaign is 30% of donations for charity are from new supporters. Obviously, that is average taken across the campaign. So that's roughly the data for that part of the question. I need to have a look about what proportion of donors opt in to receiving comms from charities.
That is borne out by the numbers that I've just checked. So from our perspective, in terms of new supporters versus existing supporters, a quarter of our donations were from people who were new to 125 for Kind²Mind.
Right, that is amazing to hear, and that is what we know about match funding, that it just incentivizes people to give, and you don't know where the supporters can come from. And thank you, Rachel and Amelia, for your presentation. This is from Catherine Gregory. She wants to ask Rachel, what was the update like on your thank you event, please?
So the thank you event was really successful. We had a relatively small group of supporters, but they were all people who had actively chosen to join. I think it was really important for us to extend the invitation, even if people didn't take it up, so that people know that that opportunity is there, and we'd love to keep them informed if they want to be informed in that way. So we did have a small group of people who came and had that more intensive experience, and we've been able to maintain conversations with them since that event. So it may not be for everyone, but for those who opt in, I think it can be a really powerful experience, especially if, like us, we have a private space, so we're not a public building that people can walk into. You have to organize to visit us in advance because our spaces are used by the women that we're supporting. So that behind the scenes opportunity, I think, was very powerful and absolutely worthwhile in terms of our supporter care for the people who chose to take it up.
And was that the first event? Sorry, I forgot. Is that the first, or do you normally do those types of events? Or was that the first time you tried that?
We offer visits to people and we organize tours, absolutely, but this was a very specific follow-up relating to the campaign. So it was a chance to, say, meet a caseworker who works directly with the women, and we contacted everyone who had given, acknowledging that support, saying sort of 3 months on, this is where we are, we'd love to give you an update, as well as giving them the thank you at the point of donation.
Great. And just to recap, Paula Mapleston has asked, where did you have the thank you event? If you could just repeat that again.
It was in our premises.
Yeah.
So it's the space that is used by the women that we work with. But because it's not a public space, that we have to organise a special time for people to come in. But absolutely worth doing.
Um, Great. Charlene has asked on socials, what platforms do you choose to run the paid ads for on?
So we ran ours
Yeah.
across Facebook and Instagram, and
Mm.
changed a huge amount now how Facebook and Instagram work as they're part of Meta. But at the time, the adverts were placed where Facebook kind of from its insights felt it would best perform. So it ended up being shown much more on Facebook, I think, rather than Instagram, because that was where people were engaging with it the most.
Great. And for both of you, you may not know this, I may rephrase the question, but Amy has asked what proportion of donations were from corporate versus public donors? Or if you don't know the proportion, do you know if any corporates did donate to you during the campaign? Yeah,
That I
Amelia?
do know. We didn't have any corporates
Mm.
ever donate during the campaign, but we did have a little foundation donate. So a small kind of
Oh, yeah.
foundation donated 2,500. And that was kind of like what Rachel was saying. It was they were going to do it, and they wanted to do it in that time.
Great. And yeah, Rachel, did you have any corporate donors?
I'm not, as far as I'm aware,
Mm.
had any corporates, but we have had corporate supporters donate to big give campaigns we've run in the
Yeah.
past. And like Amelia was saying, it's such an attractive opportunity for people that if they can time a donation that they're going to make during the appeal week and make it in the way they need to, sort of via card, then it is a really attractive opportunity. So, and it just so happened that not this time, but we have had that in the past,
Yeah.
particularly around Christmas.
Yeah. And I'll probably add to that is that if it, like Rachel and Emilia said in their presentation about setting goals, so like maybe one of the charities goals is to get engaged with a corporate donor through the campaign. One obviously really focus on LinkedIn there, and one thing I do know about LinkedIn is how their algorithms work is that you have to start posting early. It's not like something you can set up your LinkedIn account and start posting, and then it gets sort of shown in people's feeds. So if you do want to, if one of the goals is to attract corporate sponsors, you have to start working on LinkedIn now to try and work with the algorithm there. That's just something to consider.
And so
So
corporate lead times as well. Like,
yeah,
can corporates donate via card? Can
yeah,
they plan that sign off that quickly? Like we were
yeah.
like, there was no point in telling people about it on the week. It's like you got to do what Rachel was talking about with the save the dates things. It'd be like plan it to do it.
That's a good point. And just to flag as well, for donations of £500 more, we do have a backs donation option now
Yes, we do.
if donors want to use that. Emily's asking, thank you for both of your presentations. Have any of your new donors been converted to regular givers since the campaign?
Not for us. We don't have a big regular giving base, to be honest. We have like less than 20. So it's not a big thing for us.
That's quite amazing. Then you sort of got that amount of donations in with a small regular giving base. That's really amazing. Rachel, do you know if any converted regular givers?
Off the top of my head, I don't have that information for this specific campaign, but what I would say is that we do try and keep in touch with all of the supporters who would like to keep in touch with us by giving us their contact details and letting them know, so fairly well spaced out, but letting them know about other opportunities to get involved. So say at 1-5 they can volunteer. We have a regular donation program, and we also have had many opportunities to be part of Big Give. So whilst I haven't got data on regular donors, what I would definitely say is we've seen people who have supported one match funding campaign go on to support another. So we had supporters who'd given to our Christmas campaign, give to Big Give, and then, sorry, to Kind²Mind. And then from Kind²Mind, we've seen them go on to give to the following Christmas. So we definitely have lovely, generous supporters who like to give match funded appeals donations. So we have been able to track that.
Amazing. Catherine has a question for Amelia. She noticed that you have a great following on Instagram. Do you have someone responsible for managing your content? Do you have a specific marketing manager, or is it handled by the team in general?
Handled by the team. So I do have a marketing and fundraising manager. We're a tiny team, so out of 8 people, 5 of them are doing service delivery. So we kind of tag team it a little bit, because she's over everything, Amy, and she's on holiday at the moment, though she's supposed to be doing this presentation. So I think the only way that we've managed to kind of do it is we plan our content a month in advance, and we do that together. We spend an hour doing together to get the balance right of what we're going to do. And then Amy writes majority of the content, designs, we use Canva. And then we kind of, majoritively, she will project community manage it, but then I do when she's away.
Great. Yeah, that's a great way to handle in a small team, and yeah, being prepared and planned. The other thing is to reach out to your network. Maybe there are volunteers available that want to help and help out with that sort of thing. So
we had great volunteers have helped us in the past. The other thing that we've done for things like fundraising is write a template of explaining the match funding, just like Rachel was saying, put it in the notes on your phone or your computer, whatever you're using, so that you can just copy and paste it, because we had very similar questions being like, I can't figure out the link or whatever, and we just send the same thing back so that it was more efficient.
That's another great tip. Yeah, and that's something that we do at the Big Give as well, and get emails. Definitely helps save time. Paula has a question for Rachel about the event. So did you encourage people to come to thank you? Sorry, did you encourage people to come to the thank you event? Was it like a day or evening event, and was there food and drink?
Yeah, so the event was an afternoon event. We have since experimented with running the same format event at different times to make sure that we're as inclusive as we can be. So in the afternoon and in the evening. And this was the first event that directly followed on from an appeal. So this one was just an afternoon. We put on some refreshments, like at 125, there's always great cake. So we had some tea and cake and coffee available for people. But we hoped like the real incentive would be to come and see a space that is so often not visible, and to meet the staff members who work directly with women and hear their experiences. So we sent little cards out to people who we had postal addresses for, and we then sent emails to people we had email addresses for, using the same imagery, the same branding, and acknowledging the support. So absolutely, we put all of those additional extras on, but the event was very much about an insight into the service.
And maybe a question more for Rachel, but also Emilia, feel free to jump in, is that did you tell all of your regular givers about the appeal, about the campaign, or did you hold off, or did you segment your audiences? Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. We segmented our audience as part of my slideshow. I recommended like knowing your donors and who to talk to about what and when. We absolutely did contact our regular donors, but we made sure that we sent them something specific that acknowledged that they are already giving and they are already being so generous. So there is no pressure to give further, but it was an opportunity that we didn't want to not tell them about. We didn't want to hide from them. But it was important to not just send everyone the same thing, because we
Absolutely.
are committed to treating every supporter just as we treat every woman as an individual. So yes, we did send it to them, but it was tailored to recognize what they already do for us.
That's a really great tip, and yeah, something that we encourage charities to do. Pauline has a question here, and this will probably one for me to pick up. She is asking, this is the first campaign with us and haven't had the opportunity to read everything. No worries, I know there's a lot of content to read. So she's asking, are charities allowed to incentivize donors, basically donate £100 to receive a free hat or donate to be entered into a winner prize? Yes, you are. There's nothing against our rules for doing that. I think the things that you probably need to ask yourself firstly is that donors probably need to opt in to receiving comms from you when they make the donation. So you need to just sort of figure out, is everyone that donates eligible, and how are you going to contact them afterwards? And the other thing will probably obviously speak to someone with some more legal expertise just about running these sort of prize draw things, because obviously there are certain legalities about that. But from our perspective and the campaign's terms and conditions, there's nothing against charities running those sorts of type of campaigns to encourage donors to give. So yeah, we'll leave that to you. I don't think there are any further questions. I can't see anything in the chat or in the Q&A box. So I think we can wrap up a bit early today if there's no further questions. But firstly, I just want to thank Rachel and Melia for giving up time out of their busy schedules to join us today and deliver some great insights and share their knowledge with all of us today. So thank you both for joining us today. Really appreciate it. I want to also remind everyone we do have the Kind²Mind Ask Us Anything webinar next Thursday at 12 p.m. So it's just going to be me and Beth answering your questions. Whatever you have, just throw all of your questions at us and we'll be happy to answer it. And the session will last as long as you have questions for us. But with that in mind, I will wrap up today and thank everyone for joining us today and hope you all have a great bank holiday weekend. And if you have any questions, please do email us at hello@biggive.org. Thank you all for joining us today. Bye.
Thank you.